thing began about 2 months ago. At my aunt's party, my sister comes up to me and says that she thinks someone has been coming into her house in the middle of the night. My sister has always been easily scared, so at first I was skeptical. I asked her how she knew someone had been in her house, whether she had actually seen anyone. She told me she hadn't seen anyone, but she says that she knows for a fact someone was in her house. She then went to explain that she has a skybox downstairs that streams to her bedroom television. The first time it happened, she had heard the TV being used, so she turned on her TV and someone was flicking through the channels. I still didn't really buy what she was saying, but she did seem genuinely afraid. She claimed it had been going on for 3 months on and off. To put her mind at ease, I told her that I'd stay at her place for a few nights and wait to see if the guy comes. I took my brother along just to be safe. In all, we stayed at the place for 4 nights. In those 4 nights, nothing unusual happened. Me and my brother were convinced she was going crazy. Me and my brother decided we had stayed long enough and told her that we had to go home. She was extremely upset about this. I reassured her and told her to call the police next time it happened. She had called the police once before about the guy, and they turned up to find no one was in the house. I said she could call me anytime she wanted and left for work. 2 days later, she called me at 11:30 p.m. and claimed he was downstairs in her house right now. I asked her how she knew, and she said he's walking around the house. She was whispering and crying. I knew she wasn't making this up. I could tell from her voice. I called my brother and told him to meet me at her house. I was on the phone with her the entire drive up to her place. When I got there, my brother was parked up outside. We both went to the back of the house. The first floor of the house was lit solely by the TV in the living room. As we approached the patio door, we saw the man was sitting on the couch facing us. We were frozen solid, and my sister noticed that we went quiet and started asking what was wrong and if we could see him. I told her to stay quiet and that we had it in hand. I then hung up and called the police to explain the situation. The guy hadn't moved from the couch at all. The TV turned off while we were waiting for the cops. Me and my brother majorly freaked out. We couldn't see anything downstairs. Then the hallway light turned on, meaning someone was on the stairs. We opened the patio door and ran up the stairs and caught the guy with his ear to the door. We kicked the shit out of him and got my sister out of the house. He had a knife in his coat pocket. The cops came maybe 10 minutes later. It turns out the guy was one of our old mom's friends who had lived with us while in the 90s. He had always been fond of my sister, but we had never suspected it to be him. He hadn't contacted any of us for nearly a decade. We had just moved to a suburb, our first house in a decent but isolated part of town. My sister was 12 and I was 7. Mom let us take our white German Shepherd for a walk. I remember the sun was setting over the desert landscape, but we weren't worried. It was nice to be able to walk unsupervised down the street. We lavished in our freedom and took our time, letting Kodak sniff and investigate everything. We had just let him off the lead and were watching him chase a rabbit. I guess that's why we didn't hear the car pull up, nor the huge man that was sneaking up behind us. Kodak was always ways off, and suddenly he turned back and looked at us, and like a streak of lightning he raced back towards us. He blasted past our waiting arms and landed in the man behind us. We turned, and Kodak was latched on the man's arm. Kodak was a big dog, with big white teeth and absolutely shredding this guy's arm. The man eventually got off him, and Kodak took a stance between us and the man. We apologized to the creep, not realizing what danger we were in. The man offered a shaky smile and told us we were good kids, and stumbled off to his car. I remember there being a big length of rope on the ground, which now I assume he had been holding. We looked at Kodak. He was growling and continued to growl until we made it home, and he escorted us in the house. My sister told me, "Don't tell Mom, or they'll kill Kodak for biting someone." I was so naive, we thought we were protecting our pet, but actually he saved us both from a terrible fate. Much later I learned my hometown is an area heavy in sexual predators and violent criminals. Many of the surrounding communities have passed legislation that wouldn't allow them to live in their towns, so they lived in ours. No wonder our house was so cheap. I never even met him. I didn't even know his name or face. I was blissfully unaware of his very existence. I will never know why or when it started. I'm glad for that, I guess. I moved into my very small apartment in February last year. My landlord Olivia was a sweet older woman who would always cook too much and bring me much appreciated leftovers. She was great to me, even after telling her my problem. I'm antisocial, but she didn't mind renting to a reclusive young girl who reminded her of a daughter. Every few weeks, she would knock on my door then leave, letting me know that she was leaving something for me. I loved that. Not even my family would cook so well. The next morning I wash and leave her empty containers outside my door, and by an hour or so she would take them back again. My other neighbors seemed fine, but I never talked or visited them. I worked from home, so any time I was ever forced to go out, I rushed out into my apartment, avoiding an uncomfortable situation. I loved living alone. It was everything I hoped for. I could just breathe. By April, though, I started noticing things were not right. Things were moving, or just plain disappearing. I was convinced it was just anxiety caused by my new medication and the move. Another side effect was it would always make me so drowsy. Since I hated seeing the doctor, I just dealt with it. I took naps during the day and eventually stopped caring, until one incident doubled my paranoia. Olivia brought me some sort of Greek tossed salad and dressing for lunch one day, and I enjoyed it with my friend Netflix. I fell asleep in the middle of Portlandia, and woke up that evening at 5 p.m. Per usual. What was not usual, though, was my bedding on the opposite side of me had been disturbed. I only sleep on the right side, always. Even more, it felt warm. My first thought was I must have rolled around a lot, but I knew it was too odd to dismiss. I got up and searched my apartment, gripping my phone with 911 typed in. Nothing else was disturbed. Everything was exactly how it should be. I let it go. For the next few weeks, everything was normal, pardon the occasional misplaced shoe or drawn shower curtain. I thought about telling someone, my parents, maybe Olivia, but if it's not life or death, I'm not reaching out to anyone. I wasn't scared. I was nervous. Maybe a little stubborn, but I stayed. I'm not letting some stupid anxiety ruin my lovely, lonely world. May came and it was getting worse. My panties, my toothbrush, hell, even my food was being misplaced. Every time I woke up there was a strange odor in the air. I finally realized this wasn't going to go away by ignoring it. I called my mom and begged to come stay for a few days. When I got home I told them everything. Saying it out loud solidified any creepy suspicions. That weekend my dad went to my apartment and found what was true horror. Written all over the walls, "Come back, baby please." He ran out and called the police. There was no one living in my apartment, but someone has definitely had access besides me. The investigation revealed a man, Henry, the son of the landlord Olivia, was in a projected relationship with me. They showed me his confession on tape. He admitted coming into my apartment every night and every day with his mother's extra key. He claims we were in love and had my permission. He drugged his mother's food she left out for me, causing my drowsiness and falling asleep so he could come round and watch me sleep. Touched my hair, kissed my shoulder. The leftovers I had in the fridge were tested and confirmed. I was absolutely horrified and disgusted. A man I never knew existed collected my hair, clothes, and trash and practically lived in my apartment for 4 months.